Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know how you doing.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, that's better.
Yo,
Yeah.
check it.
You know,
Intergalactical.
I know what you're thinking. Okay, cool. I don't know what you're thinking, actually. I was just making a joke. Do you need to raise it?
Nah, we're good.
Raise the glass?
For sure.
Okay.
Yo, check it. Check.
Welcome, everybody, to FATstaters Revamp, episode
1.
1. I'm Bobby, along with Keith, also known as Fick.
Yo.
The main topic today is we're going to be talking about how we missed the playoffs, what we did wrong.
In fantasy football.
Yeah, in fantasy football.
Because both of our real NFL teams didn't miss the playoffs, and we could be here for days talking about that.
Yeah, FATstats. Yeah, we analyzed the game. We're trying to do it in the most entertaining way possible, right? So what we want to do today is, yes, the regular season is over for redraft leagues and dynasty. I mean, all leagues are over right now. You can do DFS for playoffs, but what we want to talk about is some of our shortcomings or our failures that we've had throughout in the regular season, and maybe help you all out, find a way to just do a better job next year, right? Some things. Obviously, fantasy football is luck a lot of the times, but there are some things that you could learn from why you didn't make the playoffs. So we wanted to talk a little bit through some of the things we learned. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. All right. You want to start it off with one of the first topics?
But real quick, before we get really into the topic, the person who had the best record in our league, he went 10-4, I think, or 11-3 in the regular season, got eliminated by a long shot in the first round. So it just doesn't really matter how well you do in the beginning of the year. It's just how you finish off in the year.
That's right. Yeah. And another thing, too, just a little background. We've been in the same league. It was our 10-year anniversary this year.
Six people have been in the league for 10 years. We've had some stragglers here and there, but there's been a core 6.
Yeah. Right. Our CPC, Clean Plate Club League, redraft, half PPR, 10-person league. So
I'll start it off. So last year, I happened to make the playoffs. I had a strategy in mind. Sometimes when you have a strategy in mind, you don't like to stick to it depending on how the board falls. And I stuck to my strategy last year. My strategy last year was go wide receiver, running back, or running back. A lot of people have it in them where you can't take 2 positions in a row, or because, if you take 2 wide receivers, then you're not going to get a good running back. Or if you take 2 running backs, you're not going to get a good wide receiver. Go with what's in your heart. Like, if you think that you should go wide receiver, do it. It doesn't matter what everybody else is thinking and all that stuff. And that's something that happened to screw me over this year. I had the 3rd pick overall in our league.
Yeah.
And I think I had the 3rd, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I went Odell. In hindsight, Odell probably shouldn't have been drafted till the 3rd round. I'm a big Giants fan, and that's what happened. I just got really trigger happy. I figured he was poised for a big year this year. I thought Eli was going to step up. We had Saquon. I thought everything was going to come to fruition. And instead of going in the 2nd round, instead of taking Devontae Adams like I should have because he was the best available player, I went Devonta Freeman. I was banking on getting a running back, either Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, or Christian McCaffrey, and the 3 of them fell boom, boom, boom right before I got the pick. I panicked, and instead of going with best available player, I was like, I need a running back bad, and I took Devonta Freeman. And how did that work out?
Yeah, well, that was injury too. You'd think the Falcons were going to come back to reality. They had a great season 2 seasons ago, and then they fell off, and you think they'd take a step back forward, with Sarkisian being there under 2 years. So, I mean, it was an injury that happened.
Yeah, because if you look at Julio quietly had like 1,500 yards this year.
Yeah, if you didn't take Odell first round, and because Odell would have went at end of the 1st or 2nd for sure, But if you wouldn't have took him, you took a running back, then you probably would have felt better to take Devontae Adams, right?
I should have taken Alvin Kamara like I wanted to. I took him in our dynasty league that we have. I took him 5th overall.
You went home instead.
And I wanted to get Odell. However, if I went New York Giants, I obviously should have went Saquon. That would have been the smart pick, but obviously I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was on the outside looking in. And then you get into like panic mode as you are later into the draft. I know I got Jordan Howard, and I was trying to get Tariq Cohen, and I was going to try to do everything I could to get Tariq Cohen, but then maybe sometimes you got to reach on a player, and you want to have your quote unquote cuff, but necessarily it doesn't always work out that way. You can't bank on somebody putting up the same production as another running back. It was a lucky thing this year with James Conner. So for all those who had Le'Veon and took James Conner, he kind of didn't really miss a step at all. But how often does that really happen? Mm-hmm. It's like, if you take Christian McCaffrey, I could not even tell you who the hell the backup running backs are in freaking Carolina.
Right. Yeah,
I have no clue.
Yeah.
I'm not going to draft one of those guys because I don't know who they are. And what if your player doesn't get hurt? Like I know Todd Gurley, a lot of people wanted John Kelly. Todd Gurley played every game this year. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so now you have John Kelly sitting on your bench for what?
For what? No, yeah, it's a good point. I mean, for Panthers, C.J. Anderson, it was a guy I was targeting because of the way they used Jonathan Stewart the year before in goal line carries. You thought C.J. Anderson, but no. Norv Turner was using CMC as much as he could. Like, durability-wise, like, he's not a big dude, Christian McCaffrey, but he was durable all year. He was reliable. He was a stud. That's someone I definitely missed on, too. Going into mine, when you speak of strategy, I completely agree because I'm looking back at what I did in the year, and I was trying to think. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. My whole strategy, though, was first round, get a running back, and I knew because I was at 8, I knew Melvin Gordon would most likely be there just because.
Great pick.
Yeah, and
great pick.
It turned out to be a great pick, and then Julio. A lot of people slept on him just because. I mean, he's up and down sometimes, and again, the Falcons' offense wasn't great last year or the year prior to this previous season. And so I got Julio. I wanted to get my running back wide receiver. I usually do that back and forth. I wasn't going to go running back unless someone was there. But I was, I wasn't believing in the Kareem Hunt was going to have another great season. I loved Kareem Hunt. He was the reason why I won the championship 2 years ago. He was one of my rookie steals, which I'll talk about.
Took him in the 4th round?
In the 4th round, yeah. And so, but I was like, there's going to be a regression. That's what I thought. I was wrong. But anyways, I went Julio. Where I messed up, and this is my whole point, is strategy. My 3rd and 4th round, because Julio is he can be a boom or bust guy at times. I knew Melvin was going to get his stuff. I'm all about consistency. And I like solid players that have solid floors that are going to get targets. So in my 3rd round, I got Doug Baldwin. And then in the 4th, I got Larry Fitzgerald. Larry, it was good. You'd think he'd be good for 130 targets for the season, right? Who else is in freaking Arizona? Plus, he gets David Johnson back. David Johnson is another weapon that it's going to open up things for Larry, you'd think.
Got to be able to put 11 in the box to stop David Johnson.
Right, and I thought Sam Bradford, if he was going to be healthy, he was going to be solid enough to get the ball because that's what Sam Bradford did on the Vikings. I mean, he got hurt last year, but he looked like he was going to do well.
But yeah, he was poised to be like that guy.
Right. I was wrong. Doug Baldwin got hurt. You can't deal with injuries. My whole point is I'll probably go with this strategy again next year. It didn't work out for me. I missed the playoffs by 1 game. I went 7-7 in the regular season, and Doug Baldwin really hurt me because I thought for sure I know Seattle was going to work on their running game. It was really going to focus on their running game, but Seattle just got rid of Jimmy Graham. Yes, they signed Tyler Lockett to a bigger deal, but who else are they going to throw it to? Reliable Doug Baldwin.
Exactly.
He got hurt. So, but you stick to your strategy. That's my point.
But and that comes back to is like I got Devonta Freeman. If he was healthy, Devonta's good for 1,100 yards a year, 7 touchdowns. Either combined receiving and running. And that's a solid play. But injuries is something you can't ever like, oh, this guy's going to get hurt this year. I know that for a fact.
Right.
You have no clue.
No, you'll never be able to. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to adjust. And that's what
and the greats adjust. And speaking of that, I'm in 2 leagues, and Bobby is in the same 2 leagues that I'm in. He's also in other leagues. But in the 2 leagues that we're both in, the people who won the ship both ended up drafting Kareem Hunt. And as everybody knows, Kareem Hunt didn't play, the last 6 games of the season, last 7 games, something like that.
Yeah.
And these 2 teams were able to overcome adversity by the way that they drafted. If I'm looking correctly at the person's thing, they took Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, and then who was that after that?
Adam
Thielen. Like, dude put up record-setting numbers the first 8 weeks.
First 3, yeah.
Consistent, consistent. And, he ended up taking Deshaun Watson, this kid, and he rode out through the Deshaun Watson early, woes and stuff. It's just, it's a lot of luck in fantasy because you can score 130 points a game and still lose because the person you're playing put up 135 that week.
Mm-hmm. And
you might have the best team with the best players, but you don't know who's going to do what in any given week.
Right.
You could have bench players, somebody who's like the 3rd string wide receiver on a team go off for 42 points in a game, and you're like, holy shit, he was on my bench.
Yep.
But would you start, for example, I know it happened recently with, I can't think of off top, but I think it was a running back, and he went for like 35 points, but it was like a guy that you wouldn't really start over somebody like a Todd Gurley or Christian McCaffrey if you had. And then you look like, damn, that guy got 35 points this week, and Todd only put up 12. But you ever going to start that guy over that?
Right.
No.
That's right. That's why it's consistency for me is like a big strategy of mine, and it didn't. And that's why my season when I won 2 years ago, and even the season before that, I am around when we track our history of our wins and losses, and I'm around 500, and that's because of the way I play. I'm never going to have. I don't expect to have 11, 12 win or 10 win seasons because the way I play. As long as I can get to the playoffs, then it's on. Then I build my team right.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to bring up too, which me and you have talked back and forth about, is tight ends. I personally, my strategy going in was thinking that just tight ends is always a crapshoot. Once you leave from the Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz's. I'm thinking now pre-2018 happening, it was Gronk,
even
Ertz,
going into
Kelsey.
Next year, it's still going to be Gronk, Ertz,
yeah, but
Kelsey.
Gronk, you don't know what's going to happen with Gronk.
Right, but it's still going to be Kelsey and Ertz will still be the first 2 tight ends
absolutely,
off the board.
But now George Kittle will be...
And Eric Ebron.
Yes.
The year that he put
exactly.
up.
Good point, right.
Jack Doyle got hurt.
Even when Jack Doyle was healthy too, Eric Ebron was just a red zone threat.
We have 14, 13 touchdowns this year, 15 even, something crazy like that.
Yeah, so, but my point is, where I messed up, and what strategy-wise for those that are listening, I waited on tight end. I waited. I won, when I won 2 years ago, I had Kyle Rudolph as my tight end, right? Solid. He took a huge step back. But you look at, I waited until the 12th round, and I got Tyler Eifert because so many people. I wanted to get Trey Burton. I made a trade to get Trey Burton.
He didn't really do much.
He didn't do much. No. He still finished as a top 10 tight end, but top 10 tight end doesn't mean crap because Kelsey and Ertz. I mean, you see all the weeks that they did put up. There were still a lot of down weeks. I could have hit on a George Kittle late. I didn't hit it. Delaney Walker got hurt. Jordan Reed was, someone that he just didn't do much, even when he was healthy.
But yeah, Jordan Reed is one of those players where if you draft him, you're only going to get maybe 10 games out of him in a year.
Oh yeah, health-wise,
he doesn't 100%. Play. I don't think he's ever played a full season. He's always hurt. His ankle, his knee, his this, his that, and it's. I did the same thing with a tight end. I waited, and I'm like, okay, I'll be able to get it, but then. You know how if you're a frequent fantasy player, you know how it goes. Once somebody starts taking a player from one position, they all start falling like hotcakes. Mm-hmm. And we make a joke about it in our league. I didn't survive the tight end run of 2018. I just didn't. I ended up with O.J. Howard, and statistically, Jameis and Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't like to target their tight ends. However, this year O.J. Howard happened to have a good year. Granted, there was one game where he had like 120 yards, but 85 of them were on a one catch where he just busted coverage and nobody was guarding him. Like, he better have scored that touchdown. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, the tight end is the biggest crapshoot in fantasy football. I feel like kickers are more consistent than tight ends. I feel like you can hit better on a kicker than you can on a tight end.
Yeah, well, QBs. So the way I feel about QBs is I'm not going to take one early. That's how it's always been. And I did take one. I took Kirk Cousins late. I ended up trading him along with someone else to get Trey Burton, and I got Matthew Stafford. To me, I didn't care about Matthew Stafford, and good thing I didn't. He was horrible this year. So I knew I could get Jameis Winston when he came back from suspension off the waiver wire. I knew I could get anybody to plug in. Baker was on our waiver wire at the time because Tyrod started. So all these players were on the waivers. So I was like, I don't worry about it. Tight end, however, yes, you can do that, but it was such a struggle for me. If I could tell you how many games I lost by close amounts and where Trey Burton screwed me, it was, I counted him in between, I think week 3 and 7, I lost like 3 of those games by, 8 to 12 points. And a tight end, you look at Kelsey and George Kittle, and even if I plugged in the right tight ends, Austin Hooper, Eric Ebron, I would have won those weeks. And so next year, I'm not saying I'm going to go tight end in the first 4 rounds, but I will strongly consider. I think Ertz will fall again because Kelsey won't, but I think Ertz will fall again just because, and Goddard.
Because who the hell knows what's going to happen with the quarterback situation over there in Philly?
Yeah, good point.
If Nick Foles wins another Super Bowl, I honestly believe it's bye-bye Carson.
I don't think it's bye-bye Carson, but I think Nick Foles will start.
100% it's bye-bye Carson.
I think he should start. Nick Foles should. I mean,
I think they rushed Carson back way too soon this year. I feel like they could have held him out till at least week 8. I feel like they really did rush him back. I think because Nick Foles didn't start off the year the greatest. I think they went 2-1 before they brought Carson back, but Nick Foles wasn't the reason why they went 2-1. But that's just like a crazy situation to look at too. Jay got hurt beginning of the year.
Yeah,
and
right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh shit, that guy's hurt. Now who's gonna get the ball? And Zach Ertz put up, I think, one of the greatest years a tight end has ever put up. But reception wise, I'm pretty sure he now holds the record for the most receptions by a tight end in a single season. Which goes back to after going into next season, you have your top tier, which is Kelsey, Ertz, and then after that it's an open ballpark, man. Mm-hmm. You said that I forgot who you said, but he finished top 10. Trey Burton, I think it was. But a top 10 tight end is like a top, is like a 40 to 50 wide receiver. Right. You don't know exactly what they're gonna do. I know.
We talk about tight ends too much. Do you have what's your next strategy or something?
Another thing that I did wrong is I took a defense in the 10th round, and that screwed me because I took the Jaguars based off of the year before. Now Dynasty, I went a different approach. I didn't draft a defense at all in Dynasty, and I waited till about a week or two before the season started. And I happened to get really lucky in the defense I picked up. I went based off of the last 6 weeks of last year of who was available, and the Chicago Bears were available. I picked them up based off of their last 6 games, and 3 days after I picked them up, lo and behold, number 52 shows up. Mm-hmm. And boom, what happened? They were the best defense this year. I think their worst game they got me was like 4 points.
Oh, yeah. I started them.
Every other week, 20 points, 18 points, 26 points, 27 points. Teams in my Dynasty League were getting pissed off because my defense was putting up more than their first-round picks. And so that's just like another thing that I'm probably going to look for into the future is defense and kicker. That should be your last 2 picks.
I didn't even
and maybe
pick
you
them.
Shouldn't even pick one.
Yeah.
Wait till
I waited.
Because you could get a kicker, you know what I mean? I had a bunch of kickers, and then I think my last kicker ended up being Aldrick Rosas, Giants kicker, and he's now a Pro Bowler this year because he had a hell of a season. The year before he wasn't good, but it's kickers, man. Anything can happen.
Just wait, because depending on when your draft is, wait until the preseason's over. Wait till depth charts and lineups cuts and all that stuff happen, and see maybe the flyers you took at the end of the draft are really worth nothing, and now you can pick up your tight end or kicker and defense.
Yeah, what if you draft a player, in the 17th round? Oh, well, our draft wasn't that long. So you pick a player up in the 15th round and you're like, oh, I freaking love this guy. This guy's going to be a boom. He tears his ACL week 1 of the preseason.
Yeah.
Now he's out for the year. Okay, now you drop that guy. You don't have your kicker. Boom, now there's an open spot for your kicker. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's easier. You should fill up all your normal positions first. I mean, kickers are people too, and defenses count. But like I said, I picked up the Chicago Bears 2 weeks before the season started, or like 3 days before they got Khalil Mack, and look what happened. They led the league in turnovers. They were the number one scoring, like the number one defense in the league. Like it's things like that can happen. I drafted Todd Gurley in the 3rd round 2 years ago. People laughed at me. Oh, he had a horrible year the year before, Fick. What are you doing? Who was the number 1 running back the last 2 years of fantasy football?
Oh, yeah.
Todd Gurley.
Good point. So this is a good segue. Todd Gurley is also part of one of the best offenses in football, and that was one of my issues was being someone that's very into statistics and analytics side of things. I thought a regression would happen, a slight regression for the Rams. And I was completely wrong. Actually, offense in general was the highest producing. Just in general for the NFL, it was the best it's ever been.
The only thing that regressed in the Rams' offenses was the defenses that they played.
Yeah, I know. Well, and
Todd put up a hell of a year, man. I think 17 rushing touchdowns this year.
Right.
It was crazy.
And just to give you perspective, so in 2017, the Patriots had the most offensive yards. They had 6,307, and the Rams led the league in points which was 478. In last year, 4 offenses scored more than the Pats in offensive yards. I mean, they had more offensive yards than the Pats did in 2017. 4 of them. The Chiefs led the league in 6,810, 500 more yards than the Pats did. 3 teams outdid the 2017 points for the Rams, points for. And the Chiefs scored 565, almost 100 more points than the Rams did the year before. So offense in general, and whether this is a trend because of all the rule changes and defense and things like that are protecting the offensive players, we'll see. But one of my mistakes, I didn't take any players I did actually take Cooper Kupp. I ended up trading him because of, he had a good start. And I was like, I don't know how much this is going to last because, again, my thinking, I traded him. That was a mistake. He did get hurt, but he would have won me a lot of games early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
That Austin
put you up
winning.
higher up in the seeding, and you might have made the playoffs, and you could have made a little run in the playoffs.
Yep.
Once you get in, that's all you're worried about.
That's right, yeah. I just need to get wins early in the season, and I actually, that was my worst trade decision. I made like 9 trades in the year. That was probably the worst one, was getting rid of Kupp. And that would have won me some games early in the season. But my whole point there is don't assume, obviously, because of a very high offensive production coming out of nowhere, Rams went from the worst to the best. You think that there's going to be a regression. I need to reevaluate my projections for these offenses are gonna, or how good they're gonna be.
I got one more strategy that also people need to take into consideration. You might have. We're going to use Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell for an example. Le'Veon's days are numbered in Pittsburgh, obviously, through this year. They're going to get rid of him. And recent media suggests, and according to the owner, he doesn't see Antonio Brown coming back. Now, obviously, these are 2 star caliber players, all-star superstars, like players that everybody wants on their team. All other 31 teams should be begging for a chance to get one of these guys. But who knows how good they'll do at their new home. You know what I mean? Antonio Brown has built a chemistry with Ben Roethlisberger over these years. Who's to say that he goes to a team, maybe, let's say he goes to the Packers. I'll use the Packers for an example. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers might be the greatest quarterback in the league. Might be one of the greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen play the game of football. But who knows how good that him and Antonio Brown could be together. Maybe not in their first year. They might not do anything because they have to build a chemistry.
Right.
Something has to come. So you can't just assume because of a player of how good they are, and now they're at a new home where, they'll definitely be the short shot number 1. Well, yeah, other defenses see that too. And guess what? The Packers wide receiving core is something left to be desired. And if they get an Antonio Brown, you double him and shadow a fucking safety over the top of him.
Right.
And what's going to happen?
Devontae Adams too.
Oh, I forgot about Devontae.
Yeah.
My bad. Oh, shit. I really did forget about Devontae.
But it's a good point because on the flip side, if he goes to a team that doesn't have a strong quarterback,
Like the Jets, let's say.
let's say he goes to the Jets, you have to take that into consideration of the situation, right? Yeah, what are they stepping into, and really evaluate. Is Sam Darnold going to be able to deliver the production that makes Antonio Brown as relevant as he was in the Steelers?
And there's only one wide receiver that I could think of who put up numbers no matter who the hell was throwing the ball. And I'm talking in recent times, and that's DeAndre Hopkins. Before Deshaun Watson, the boy had a bunch of bums off the street as his quarterback. Tom Savage and T.J. Yates and God knows who else they were throwing out there as quarterback. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden they have like Case Keenum too at one point before he became Case Keenum on the Vikings. And now look at DeAndre Hopkins was putting up numbers, and now he has his quarterback. And what did he drop? How many balls he dropped this year, Bobby?
How many balls? Oh, DeAndre Hopkins?
DeAndre Hopkins dropped 0 balls this year because he had a quarterback who could throw him the ball and get it to him. Obviously, he's always going to make his free catches like he always does, but if the ball touches his hands, he's coming down with it.
No, that's a good point.
And now Deshaun Watson can get him the ball. So if we were doing a redraft, I feel like DeAndre Hopkins should have been the number 1 or 2 wide receiver off the board instead of Odell and Antonio Brown like most people did this year.
Right. Well, yeah, and DeAndre Hopkins was a steal 2 years ago. You talk about Todd being a steal. DeAndre Hopkins was too, right, because of that point.
And it took him in like the second round.
I think that should be a topic that we talk about towards draft time next season, just saying this out loud, is who is those players that took a step back this year that will get back to being a stud the following year. Jordan Howard took a huge step back. That offense, though, it's looking great with Mitch Trubisky. I don't know where Jordan Howard fits into that.
Right.
Because Tariq Cohen is such a gadget player that they love to use. I don't know. Jordan Howard did start getting played at the end of the year. We could talk about that, though, towards draft season. But, yeah.
That's it, man. If you listen to our strategies, you come up with your own strategy. But if you have a strategy, stick to it. No matter what it is.
Yep.
No matter what your strategy is, stick to it. And always have that backup plan to ensure that you're going to get the guys that you want or need. Always have maybe 2 or 3 options available per pick. A player in our league, he got the first 7 picks that he wanted. He got all those players. Doesn't always happen that way. But don't let anybody influence you. If you have a strategy, stick to your strategy. Plain and simple.
Yep. Okay.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, those are great tips. All right, so that completes our, revamp to FATstaters, our episode 1.
Episode 1 redo.
Yeah, redo. And so we'll be bringing topics throughout the off season and stuff to help you get ready for the draft. We'll start to talk about rookies coming out and what that looks like, dynasty football.
Be able to have dynasty and keeper leagues and
That's
stuff
right.
like that. But before we end it today, we do got a couple games coming up this weekend. Just curious, who you got, Bob? Like, who do you got? First game today is we got Indianapolis Colts at Kansas City.
Yeah.
Minus the spread. Forget the spread. Who do you got, Bob?
I like the Chiefs at home.
Do you?
Yep.
I think Andrew Luck might pull it out this year. I really like Frank Reich and what he's done with that team. That's not the first guy they wanted, and God, I bet you they're praying to Jim Irsay's praying to the heavens every day that he was able to get Frank Reich and turn the ship around with Andrew Luck. Game 2. It's,
Cowboys.
the boys at the Rams.
Rams.
I hate the boys so
I'm
much.
taking all home teams.
I
Honestly,
hate
I
the
already
boys
picked. I did
so
my
much,
picks.
man.
I'm taking all home teams this weekend.
I really want the Rams to win, but something tells me that Jared Goff might shit the bed again.
I think
this
so
year
too.
in the playoffs.
Well,
and then
I
going
think so
next
too.
year, he might realize from his faults. I do think the boys make it to the NFC Championship game.
I don't. I think the Rams defense steps up.
I hope so. I really do hope so.
Okay, next game.
Tomorrow. Who's tomorrow? The first game. I don't know the first game, but Pats. Chargers at Pats.
I'm taking Pats at home.
Phillip Rivers has never beaten Tom Brady in his career. I think he's 0-7 in the regular season and 0-2 in the playoffs against Tom Brady. This is it. This is the game.
Okay.
If you go back, and I hope they do win because we'll pull back from one of our original recordings that we have from the beginning of the season where I said that this could be the Chargers.
That's right. Yep.
If they stayed healthy, which they did, and they stayed consistent, which they did, Keenan didn't get hurt, Melvin didn't get hurt, Phillip didn't get hurt, and look what they did.
Okay.
They would have been the best team in the division if Chiefs didn't Chiefs.
Yep. And Philly at New Orleans.
Drewy in his dome, baby.
Yeah, New Orleans. Definitely. Saints defense will step up, too. They've been good.
To quote one of our friends, Chase, who quoted The Godfather, in his dome, where his little wide receivers play with their toys. It's a Godfather 2 quote, but Chase flipped it on for the rent.
They talk about receivers?
No, they talk about having an affair with his wife in the house, but Chase flipped it, you know. It's Drew in his dome, bro.
Okay.
He has not lost in his dome in the playoffs.
All right.
And the last time they went 13-3, they lost to the Bucs, the Cowboys, and I forgot the other team, and they won the Super Bowl. And they lost to the same 3 teams this year. So I really do look out for them boys to do some fucking damage.
Okay. Great.
Until next week, my friend.
See ya.
Peace.